Yeah, I'll start with just a very difficult end to the season. A lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. I think, the disappointment came in the form of special teams. I don't think we performed nearly the level we needed to have success in the playoffs. The frustration, just understanding the game plan that was in place, but not executing. And I think the anger at the end of the day, just not a consistent enough style of play to have success. There was a couple games during the playoffs that occurred, but not consistent enough. So that can be felt in our room even today. So kind of our process here today, we start with meetings with the players and that. Individuals, they're going on right now, but I get that sense from them too, which is a much stronger sense than it was the past season. So, that being said, we take a step back now. The season as a whole, we still believe this group has made progress in a lot of different areas. We have to find a way to get that to translate into the playoffs. That starts with these meetings right now and going forward. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I think we're open to some questions here, and we'll give you the best answers we can. We've started this process right now, and we got to push this group forward, and we got to keep going, but it starts right now.
Okay, we'll open up for some questions. Let's start with Dennis Bernstein.
Luke, Rob, you've run the team for 7 years. You got the team back to the playoffs with no playoff success. The critics are now saying you two shouldn't be the ones to run the team. How do you answer that criticism?
Well, I think we're making progress. The progress has not shown in the playoffs, and that's up to us to keep driving this home with this group right now. And we've got to take that next step. Like I said, that's a very difficult end of this season, based off of where we project this team to get to. And it's up to us. So whether it's the style we play, the incorporation of some younger players, and how we make those strides, we've got to continue to keep going on that.
Zach Dooley next.
Luke, you're the president both on the business side and the hockey ops side. After the season that Rob kind of talked about, what's your message to the fan base going forward?
Well, I think regarding our fans and so forth, obviously about this season, I go back to most of you guys. I was looking around. You've been in our office on the other side and saw like our core values on the wall, and there's a word there, integrity and passion. Over the last few days, obviously we're very disappointed, but we talked to our ownership group and so forth, and the integrity of this organization is very important, and the people that work around. And for me, anyway, personally, and Mr. Ainstrutz and Dan, and then Rob, who's one of the person with the most integrity I know, and then it goes all the way down to our staff that works with our team and so forth. It's important. And then there's the next word is passion. And we all have an extreme amount of passion towards this organization and taking it to the next level. I won't keep going the word, but then there's the word family. And we always talk about family, the way we treat people around, the way we treat our staff, their families coming around, everybody around. And then part of this family is our fans. And we're all part of one big group, and sometimes when you're family, you get disappointed, you get mad at each other, and then you resolve your problem and so forth. We hear our fans loud and clear right now. We know they're disappointed. We know they want to get to the next level, and we built this team moving forward, and we still know there's different steps to take, but it's not about winning one series, beating one team. It's about getting us that we can win the last game of the season, and that's the Stanley Cup. And it's about building a team doing that. And the process that we're going through, whether it's today or this weekend or the next summer and the last few years, it's about going towards that goal. And that's why right now, like about our fans, we understand our family. We understand they're not happy, but we keep plugging and doing the right thing for the good of this organization, and we'll be okay at the end of the day. And usually you end up with a big Christmas party as a family, and hopefully that's what we're going to do as a group.
Okay, John, over to Eric Stevens.
Thanks so much. Just
Sorry, hold on.
can we get an update on where things stand with Jim Hiller?
Yeah, so that process is underway here for the next few days, just going over. I'll take you back to the mandate kind of with Jimmy when he took over was get us in the playoffs. You know, there was going to be some change, but it wasn't dramatic or drastic enough. You know, there's some things he wants to implement in this team. We want to meet with him and do that. Confident in his presence and his passion that he brings, confident in the message he gives, his communication skills and all that. But that's a process here that Luke and I, some of the hockey staff, will meet with him and just go over exact changes that he would feel would go into place before we get a decision there.
Do you have a timeline on that at all, or when there might be a decision?
A couple of weeks here. That will start those meetings with him. Like I said, right now it's just the player meetings here for a few days, and then we'll get into that.
Eric?
Rob, was there any need to clarify your status at all, whether with Luke
No.
or anyone ever since
No.
the season ended? No. How do you see going forward, building on this season?
Yeah.
And what areas can you build?
Yeah, I think where it's going to be, there's some young players that get into this lineup. We saw some of them during the season, and we fully anticipate them taking that next step. Systematic changes will be discussed in different ways too. If you look, it will give it the third least amount of goals against. So that pattern is good. You don't want to deviate too far from that. On the offensive side, we've gotten better, but we're still league average. So there's different ways to do that, whether it's off the rush, whether it's plays to the slot, chances from the slot, but we've got to increase that also.
Is there any consideration or deviating from the 131?
I think we have to have a deep discussion on that for sure.
Steve Rosen and Baxter?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just asking, just so I'm more accurate, and also I think there is the question from the outside in the symbiosis of your relationship working together on your hockey side. Like, how would you describe your roles, Rob's roles, just how they work together in concert as it relates to hockey operations?
Oh, we always work together, but the decisions are always Rob, you know, and we got a great team, but I shouldn't say that because we always talked. We talk constantly, but we believe as an organization, like, you know, you got to make some hard decisions and so forth, and the structure, the way we work, like when it comes out to hockey ops, we have like a lot of great people. You know, you've been around too. A few years ago, you saw all the guys meeting and so forth, and that's the way our structure is.
Baxter?
Hey, Rob, thanks for your time. You talked a little bit about you guys having a lot of discussions and kind of maybe talk going on. And I'm wondering if you can share anything that you might be thinking about doing concretely. You have a number of key players unsigned. You don't have any goaltenders signed right now. And the Dubois situation, you know, you do have salary cap problems. He's making a lot of money. He didn't produce this year. And where are you on some of those personnel issues?
Yeah, we'll start with Dubois. We need to make him better. Like, he's had a consistent performance over his career so far and deviated from that this year. So it's up to us as a staff, coaches, and management here to help him become more productive to us. As far as our UFAs, again, that's a process that plays out here for the next little while. They're all beneficial. They've all helped us get to a certain point and a certain level. A regular season but we haven't got to that point during the playoffs, and we have to find that answer too. But that process plays out here over the next little while. I don't know if I can give you concrete answers on those UFAs.
Thank you.
To Andrew Knoll,
Did I
then
get it?
Morgan?
Everything?
Excuse me?
Did I get everything you?
Yeah, I think so. Well, maybe the goaltender.
Oh, the goaltender, same situation. I thought our goaltenders gave us a quality play this year, for sure. An increased save percentage, goals saved above expected and everything. What we don't have is a long-term solution going forward, other than we have a young player that we acquired that has played very well in Ontario, but it takes time for that position.
Andrew?
Yeah, so I'll pose to you guys the same question Dennis posed to PL the other day, is that, are there any positives to be taken out of this season? I mean, you guys talk about progress, but you moved back in the point total despite a great start. You had to change coaches. You made a big commitment to Dubois. He obviously didn't deliver.
Yeah.
You carried the short roster that lost you players on the way.
Yeah.
Where's the positive from the managerial side, I guess?
Progress-wise? So we're very, very
Sure.
slimmer point standings, right, at the end of the season. I think when Jim took over, the 34 games matched the first 34 games there. Third amount of goals against in the league, very good on that aspect defensively. Offense increased from the years before. The 3-year average of the team's wins, loss records over the regular season has been, at a high level in this organization. There has been progress. There has not been progress in the playoffs, and that's what we got to get to.
I mean, I meant during this season specifically, not over the whole 10 years, the 3 years or anything. Just this year, from
Third,
22, 23 to 23, 24,
Yeah,
is what
third.
I was referring to.
The offense has increased. We were low before. We're at league average now. The defense remained the same, and the goaltending increased.
Russell?
As far as Byfield, what's the current plan for him? I know he's got a contract extension coming up. You guys looking for possibly a bridge deal, something long term?
Yeah, we'll have to explore, obviously different discussions with him on that. I think Quentin as a player really took us, strides in the right direction this year. We still need him to increase that, commanding a role up front and commanding a line and different things. But that's the progress this team will have with him.
As far as personnel needs, what do you kind of envision needing during this offseason to make this team better?
Well, I think the easy one right now is just the infusion of some of the young players. You saw these guys throughout the season, but they're at that step where they can come in and help us on that. Whatever other additions that are needed after that, we'll have to take a look at the roster and see where that direction is.
Stanovich, then Hovind?
Yeah, Rob, last year around this time, we heard Todd talking about the need to maybe ease some of the burden on Kopitar and Dowdy. They don't need to be playing the minutes they're playing. We didn't really see that happen last season. Now, Kopi took a little step back, but he and Drew both led their position group in time on ice. Do we need to see other players take that away from them, or are you confident they can be the guys that lead the way?
Well, there's still real effective players for us. We have a number of players that need to step up. If you look just at the playoff situation, I think Kempe was our only forward with multiple goals. So yeah, there's a lot there. But both Anze and Drew have prominent roles in the past on this team, and we project them continuing those roles.
Following up on that, if you look at the recent history in the NHL, the last 20 years, there hasn't been a coupling team with an over 35 forward leading their team in time on ice. Why is this organization so confident Kopi can do what?
Well, I mentioned Quentin's progress, and Quentin's evaluate and where he can get to in the lineup is important to us also.
The plan is for Quentin to take over maybe that 1C role.
Well, eventually, but he has to be up to that challenge. I thought he took tremendous strides this year, but we still need more.
Hovind, then Dennis?
You mentioned a few of the kids that
Yeah.
need to step up next
Yeah.
year. When you look down to Ontario, Brant, Clark, Thomas, who exactly specifically are you thinking
Well, I
will
think
make an impact next year?
3 of them that we saw up here at times, Clark, Turcotte, and Thomas. And, they've continued to push and make strides there, and I think they can come in and help this team.
Is there anything specific about Brant's game you could say that's improved?
Yeah, the poise he plays with, and the offensive aspect of it, I think, is something we can use. He's increased his defensive play for the most part throughout the season and that. He's gone down. They've had a good start to the playoffs here, and those guys are playing prominent roles for them.
Dennis, then Eric?
Rob, following up with Dubois.
Yeah.
You said you want to get more out of him. Can you be clear, because a lot's been made out of it?
Yep.
Is there no interest in buying him out for
No.
a 1/3
No.
buyout before June?
No.
Okay, and so the other one is, your team matched the physicality of the Oilers in the series with the Hits, but it's not a big team. Have you ever thought about the depth players, maybe the fourth line, a different look,
Yeah.
a bigger center, bigger wings, maybe on third pair, maybe a more sturdy defenseman?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I thought England really provided that on the back end, as far as the size and the physicality on that part. I will say I thought we did try to match Edmonton's physicality during the playoffs. Whether it's go by hits and that, but a lot of times we didn't have the puck, so we were hitting, trying to get that back. There's different looks that we may have to put in place there to help the game that they've played in the regular season translate better in the playoffs.
Eric?
Rob, you mentioned obviously about Jim and maybe the next couple of weeks or so to kind of resolve his status there. There are available experienced coaches that are on the market. Will that play at all into your decision making as to whether to bring Jim back or to look at other candidates for head coach?
It may eventually. I'd like to sit with Jim and get a better understanding of the exact changes and things. Like I said, there's a lot of aspects to Jim's coaching that we are confident in and that we saw firsthand here. So.
And then just Anjay and Drew both mentioned that right now they don't have interest in, say, a quote-unquote retool or rebuild.
No whatsoever.
Is that the general direction that you see here? And how confident are you in terms of making the kind of moves necessary over the summer that can bump you up a level, that can move you forward?
Yeah, that's what we have to do, and that's a message from the players that we've been meeting with, a message to the players, right? Like take what we're getting to this point, but we have to have more, and whether that's a different type of system, different type of style, infusion of some younger players or somebody from the outside, that's what we look at.
John, Jim, and Kevin. Yeah, Rosen, sorry.
Thank you so much. At the start of training camp last year, Luke, you said that the goal was to win the Stanley Cup, one of the 8 to 10 teams that could win. Piggybacking off of what Eric had asked, I mean, is that still the philosophy, 8 to 10 teams to win the Stanley Cup, and will that, as of now, be the goal for the coming season?
Yeah, I mean, if you look in our league, like every team that gets in the playoff has a chance to win. I mean, you watch every game and you break down every one of the games that we lost, and you still think, man, it was right there. And I was listening earlier today, they were talking about Carolina last year. They got out in 4 games, and they really believed they could have won all 4 games. So that's the way our league is right now. But I think what's really important is, like Blakey was talking about, you got to make sure you got the right team you got to get in, and at the same time, you got to start tweaking that you're getting prepared to win and go for a 2-month ride in the playoffs, and that's really important. But that being said, our goal is the same or moving forward because we feel some of our young guys are learning, and like Blakey said, there's going to be some more of our young guys that are going to be coming in, and right now they're playing some prominent roles in the playoffs, and even though they're just starting over there, it's still really good, and those are good lessons to take forwards with some of our guys in the future.
Rob, in your experience, if there are systematic changes, how long does it take to get on board with those systematic changes once the regular season starts?
That's an interesting question. I think what we've saw because of the systems that have been put in place here, that players that we have currently will buy into it and will accept it and move forward with it. What we got to be conscious of is a drastic change because the goals against are in the tops of the league, and that's a great standard right there. But there's ways we can increase other things on there, and that will be a combination of systematic or style changes, even if it's very moderate in that, and just an influx of some different types of players.
If there were minor tweaks since Jim took over, were you happy with the progress in those areas that were tweaked?
Yeah, but I do think also the mandate was we got to get this team in the playoffs. You have 34 games to come in and do it, and they were able to accomplish that. So you get a full off season, a better understanding of the players in that. But there are some things, and like I said, it does favor a little bit on the offensive side. The defensive structure and things against are at a high level, and there's some other groups there we can attack.
Kevin, Russell, Andrew.
Hey, Rob, again. I hope you don't think this is an unfair question. It's not meant to be that way. But you talked about, I know it's only been 5 days, and a lot of teams would love to be in the playoffs 3 years in a row. You talked about being disappointed, and again, it's only been 5 days. I don't hear like a lot of concrete things. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and I'm just wondering. It sounds a little bit like we're going to try to do the same thing, but we're expecting different results. Am I reading that wrong?
Not necessarily. I think when we talk a little bit about the systematic changes and different things that may be incorporated, we have to understand why the game didn't translate into the playoffs. We have to figure that part of it out. But the team has had success, has gotten the playoffs, but by no means is that good enough.
The core of the team will remain the same.
Yeah, we believe they've made progress, the group. We've got to push that group forward still. And we feel there's areas that we can do that.
Russell, Andrew?
I guess one of the questions throughout the season was the uncertainty of Arthur Kaliev. Could you kind of give us some thoughts on his, I guess, non-play throughout the year?
Yeah, no, he didn't help us down the stretch here at all. So we'll have to figure something out with him for sure.
Do you expect him to remain a King going forward?
I don't know. It's a little early for that right now.
Okay, Andrew, and Austin?
Yeah, Rob, you had said prior to the season you were going to check in with Royce and RV around Christmas. I know that, RV's situation changed drastically. Royce talks. Where are those guys at now, ahead of July 1st? And kind of part and parcel for that, are you guys prioritizing Hughes' extension, even though he's an RFA, and maybe trying to get that out of the way before July 1st? Just put the cap going up, offer sheet stuff, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think Quentin was a priority regardless of the timing and situation. Yes, so basically the message with those UFA guys, we'll talk at Christmas, we'll talk at the deadline. With Arvidsson's situation, there wasn't a lot we could do there. It's still that way going forward. They can help us, and they help us in certain ways. I get it. They've got different restrictions now, and they have different things they can do. But when we finalize the direction that we're going to go, the players that we feel are going to be in that lineup, what we have left of space and different things, those conversations with those UFAs will continue. I think Lewis is in that group too.
Now with Roy, I want to ask you about Roy Gavrikov, the pairing, especially with Gavrikov eligible for an extension on July 1, right? What do you think of their play over the course of the season, and do you think that that's going to be a kind of an integral part of your decor moving forward?
Yeah, they have been very good, and limited chance against and different things at 5-on-5. They play well together, and we're not going to lose sight of that.
Austin?
Well, you guys have talked a lot about infusing young players going forward. When we look back at the organization in 2021, after the last first-round pick you guys had, a lot of us having the best prospect pool in the league or one of. We haven't seen a lot of impact from that group, though. They've been traded away, or something's gone wrong in their development. How concerning is the lack of impact players from that group of prospects, and what's gone wrong?
Well, I think Quentin and Clark probably are two of the big impact players in that group. We saw some good things out of Turcotte this year. First playing for the most part for the season, come in and helped us there. So yeah, we've got to get those guys, but I do think Clark and Byfield in particular are big parts of that.
And go back to Pierre-Luc Dubois, you mentioned management needs to do more to make him successful. He wasn't really used in the roles he's been used in the past, top six center with elite line mates in front of the power play. Why was he not using those roles this last year? And are you gonna make sure that he is going forward?
Well, I don't know if we can make sure. We've got to do a better job with the coaches to incorporate him into the game, but we need some buy-in with him to do that also. So.
Dennis, Eric?
Rob, back to goaltending. You tracked 21st overall. Would you be open to moving that pick for an established goaltender?
I don't know. I don't know what would be available or anything at that aspect by any means. Like I said, the long-term goalie one solution probably isn't in place in this team right now, but we have to look at all different options there.
Eric?
Luke said it right off the top that he sees fans' frustration and upset, whatever word you want to use whatsoever. I didn't realize that the loudest among the fan base doesn't necessarily speak for the whole, but how much of it do you sense in terms of discontent, fan discontent?
I mentioned it's the same as what our players feel. There's disappointment, frustration, difficult, and anger. And I'm sure they feel it just like the players and we do.
Take a couple more. Hoven, Austin, and Andrew.
Just back to Q for a second. If he moves over to center, right, doesn't that by default push Dubois off to the wing for next year?
It depends if he goes to center or not. I'm not sure what the process will be there with him just yet.
Do you see him more as a center or more as a wing?
I think eventually he gets back to the center position. He's played it his whole career, and I think he's starting to show signs of being able to take a line on by himself. He's starting to make that progress, and we saw a big jump in him this year with that.
Austin?
You mentioned consistency, and we heard that a lot from the players a few days ago. There was not a lot of consistency, and that was a big problem. Kobe even mentioned that they maybe lost a little bit of the winning culture they had in the Cup years. As an organization, how do you get that consistency and those kind of things implemented into a roster?
consistency in.
In your play and playing well and buying into the system, whatever you thought was missing.
Well, I think they bought into systems and bought it into structure. They've consistently done that over the term. As far as getting that buy-in, yeah, that comes with playing well. The consistent part, and that was the little bit of the frustrations in the playoffs. I don't, game one had a simple game plan, take away the outnumbered attacks, neutral zone. F3 was non-existent. They flew through neutral zone to start. We win game two, good effort, win in overtime, come home to game three, start well, take a penalty, do not have success on our power play, and then puck management hurt us. Now we're behind. Game four is probably the best game we play in that series, and we don't come away with a victory. And in game five, we go in. So the consistent between 1 and 3 is what's concerning to us on different things. Game plan's in there. You know exactly what it is. We failed to do it in certain aspects of the game.
And you mentioned trying to work with whoever the coach is, with Jim or someone else, about getting PLD more involved. But more generally, how much autonomy does the head coach have on how players are used, how lines are set up?
That's his job.
It's just all on him.
Yeah, that's his job.
Andrew?
Yeah, you mentioned Q and Clark as bright spots, obviously kind of the crown jewels of your prospect crop. I had a question about each. With Q, I know obviously negotiations are fluid, but coming in, what is your goal? Are you looking at bridge? Are you looking at long-term something interstitial? And then with Clark, obviously had a lot of success in the second call-up, and then we never saw him again. Was there any thought to using him in the playoffs, or what was his trajectory this year?
Yeah, no, I'll start with Clark because we finished your question with that. Yeah, definitely there's always thought to use him. The other thing, we had him down, make sure him and Turcotte were playing games if needed during the series. So that as far as Quinton's negotiations, that'll be early discussions that take place with the agent to see where they're at first of all. And understand that, but yeah, both those would be likely scenarios. Like those are the two scenarios available.
But I guess from your perspective, I mean, obviously, Kofi having 2 years left and that sort of thing, there's some thought to, all right, let's get some breathing room with the bridge now, but then this is a core player. So where, I guess, your priorities at in terms of immediate needs or locking him down long term? What's your goal? I know Dave Gagne's goal may be
Well,
different.
I don't know if I don't think I can come out right now with that goal. It'll play itself out. Both scenarios are frequently looked at and have to decide on it.
You have two final questions, John Rosen and Eric Stevens.
Yeah, Rob, I mean, Ontario has championship aspirations right now. I mean, they're battling and they're up in that series in the second round. What is it right now? Apart from the Akil Thomas, Turcotte, and of course Brant Clark, like who else has taken that step this year? And are you counting on in the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I think Eric Portillo has played very, very well down there. Then you have the other group with Hellenius and Lee and Pavelchev and some of the bigger guys. You'll see stature-wise, they're big guys, and they've played well. We were at the game there yesterday, and for the most part, they play a real sound team game, and they've had some good success this year with that.
And also with regards to Brant Clark, too, for him to completely maximize that dynamism that he has, like what's necessary for him in his
well, the overall defensive play, not that he can't do it, just the focus on that, too. I think offensively, you see the things he can do in that. He's going to be a really good player for the organization.
Final question, Eric Stevens.
Rob, just a quick one, cap-wise, I know obviously it's going up, I think, $4 million or so this year. Maybe it might be a little bit early, but how much have you forecasted having more cap flexibility, whether it's summer, next season?
Yeah.
And how much are you counting on that in terms of being able to make the moves that you want to make?
Use some of that for sure. That's what it's there for, to help make some of those moves. Whether it's this summer or next summer where you have a big jump, it's hard to determine that effectively right now. Like I said, we have some UFAs we got to make decisions on, and goaltenders.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Media, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you, guys.